The investigators today released a sort of unexpected finding, an interesting finding, about why they believe the Capitol was not better protected by law enforcement agencies on the day of the attack. This is from the introduction to their report, this written introduction, 154 pages, that was released by the investigation today. They say, quote, neither the intelligence community nor law enforcement obtained intelligence in advance of January 6th on the full extent of the ongoing planning by President Trump, John Eastman, Rudolph Giuliani, and their associates to overturn the certified election results. Such agencies apparently did not and potentially could not anticipate the provocation President Trump would offer the crowd in his ellipse speech. That President Trump would, quote, spontaneously instruct the crowd to march to the Capitol. That President Trump would exacerbate the violent riot by sending his 2:24 p.m. tweet condemning Vice President Pence, or the full scale of the violence and lawlessness that would ensue. Nor did law enforcement anticipate that President Trump would refuse to direct his supporters to leave the Capitol once violence began. No intelligence community advance analysis predicted exactly how President Trump would behave. No such analysis recognized the full scale and extent of the threat to the Capitol on January 6th. In other words, they knew a mob of Trump supporters would be in D.C. That wasn't going to be a first-time thing. They didn't anticipate a directed 1,000-strong assault on the building housing Congress because they didn't know what Trump himself was going to do that day. They didn't know that Trump himself would provoke that to happen. The Republican pushback to the January 6th investigation, to the extent that there has been any substantive pushback at all, has thus far been to say that the whole investigation shouldn't focus on Trump. It should focus on the terrible police and the terrible National Guard and how terrible it was that the security wasn't better at the Capitol, that the security wasn't able to stop the pro-Trump mob. Well, here's the investigators themselves saying, yeah, we looked at that. We think the police and the intelligence agencies were prepared for a normal day of angry pro-Trump demonstrators. What they weren't prepared for was the President of the United States to personally provoke and direct an insurrectionary attack by those people that day. They were prepared for Trump supporters to do their thing. They weren't prepared for Trump to personally incite the attack the way he did. Joined again by my MSNBC co-hosts here. Jen Psaki, let me just ask you, you were in an unusual position here as part of the Biden transition, preparing for the inauguration just days later. What's your reaction to hearing that specificity about what it was like to prepare for the security threats that day?
I mean, we were sitting in our houses because it was COVID, doing conference calls the night before January 6th, so January 5th, trying to plot out and plan what kind of delay tactics, I mean, on the floor, would happen that would prevent Pence and the Republicans from certifying the election. We expected it to be an 18-hour day, a 20-hour day. We were going to rotate to cover it and to follow it. We did not know, obviously. We did not prepare for it. We did not think there was going to be this type of a security breach. Otherwise, we would have discussed that. That was not part of our discussions. I'd also say that what's so compelling, I'm just going to borrow yours for a second here. I tried to save paper, sharing with Alex. What is so compelling about the beginning of this report that really pulls you in, I mean, we're all kind of nerds here, I think it's safe to say, is that they quote all of these people, to your point, Rachel, who participated in these attacks, who basically said, Donald Trump told me to go, so I went. I'm paraphrasing here. But they quoted people, which is so effective, I think, because it goes to the point of why they went, what led them there, why they went to the Capitol.
But it's not just people specifically talking about, I came to D.C. It's them saying, I went to Congress.
Yes,
I went to the building where Congress was that day because at the ellipse he told us to go.
Yes.
And the investigators are saying that's the part that the police weren't ready.
Well, and you have firsthand accounts of people in that crowd saying he's not going to say outright that we should march into the Capitol. It's got to be spontaneous. That's the most we're going to get. They knew that it wasn't going to be an official order, but that it was going to look spontaneous. I mean, there's so many questions about which groups had inside information to the insurrection that Trump was planning. In the report, it says Trump was planning on going to the floor of the House to oversee the certification of the electoral votes.
I mean, that part I get. I mean, the part that I'm a bit skeptical about, to be honest, Donald Trump had signaled to the Proud Boys, stand back and stand by. Okay, you can say that. They were planning on online. They were saying online they were going to come. Donald Trump, 2 years ago today, tweeted, "It's going to be wild." On January 5th, Steve Bannon goes on a radio show that anyone could hear if you're listening to it and says all hell is going to break loose. I think this might need to prompt another investigation. How could you not anticipate? These are the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers, and you're saying that you think they're just going to come and do what?
See, I think
March
they thought
and
it
chant?
was, what they're saying is they thought it was going to be another Million MAGA march like it had been in December, right? Remember we had a violent march. Somebody was stabbed at that. I mean, it was a violent, bad protest around which there was a lot of the same rhetoric. What they didn't expect was literally tens of thousands of people being turned around from the ellipse saying, "Go, I'll meet you there."
Yeah, a quick nuance on that goes to Trump's culpability is, yes, they prepared for a protest. They got a coup.
Yeah.
Even some of Trump's own aides, many of whom cooperated, said they themselves were surprised. You could put to the side the moral question of how much they understood the apparent venality of their boss, but that is how furtive Donald Trump was, because he knew that he was plotting something and involved in something. And Jim Jordan, according to this report today, was on the phone on January 2nd plotting an illegal breach of the Capitol.
And he wouldn't have had to be secretive about it if he thought that it was something he could announce publicly and get away with it.